Well, it's definitely not passive income like those YouTube gurus make it
Right.
out to sound. A lot of people don't realize how hard it is to sell on Amazon.
That's unbelievable.
And so I'm trying to create as many jobs as I possibly can and teach them everything I know to leave a legacy that might last hundreds of years.
Can you please give us a brief intro before we get going on yourself and how you got to where you are today?
I'm a TV reporter turned educational marketer, and everything that I've done in the past 7 years has been build lots of content, teach as many people as I can, and a few of them pay me along the way. One of the biggest blessings from that is I've been able to create 540 jobs, but I eat, sleep, and drink Amazon. I run my family like I run my business.
Mm.
Hashtag never pull out. I've been trying to talk my wife into doing some stuff for the business for the first time. I went viral on Reddit last week on LinkedIn Lunatics,
Yeah.
which I think is a badge of honor personally.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and she was like, I don't want to do that. It's my private life. No one ever talks about how ridiculous it is to be married to an entrepreneur. Just start typing about it. So she posted a story last night about how one of my first employees was raiding our pantry in the kitchen. I had allowed it because I was like, oh, this is a perk. You know, I come into my house, work for me in my business. I started the business out of my house and I thought it was fine.
Yeah.
The wife, on the other hand, as she comes home with groceries and then he starts going through the bags and, you know, she had a whole different opinion about the
Wow.
matter.
Yes. Mm.
And then my fire marshal for the city stopped by one day, knocks on the door and says, hey, I know you're running a business here. We've been tracking your cars. You can't do that. I looked at him and I looked at the cars and I said, yeah, you're kind of right. And then
Yeah.
we went remote and then I started hiring people from international. Best thing that ever happened. I'm so
Wow.
glad the fire marshal kicked me out
Yeah.
because it happened 6 months before COVID when everybody had to go remote anyway.
What are some of the top challenges, if you can speak about this, that sellers face today? And how does My Amazon Guy help them overcome these obstacles?
Very challenging to source your products. You got to deal with China and bribery and
Mm.
corruption over there. Launching on Amazon, even opening your account can be challenging because like 60,000 accounts get opened every month or something like that. And Amazon auto bans a bunch of them. They have their
Mm.
algorithm. So you make one little mistake on the application process and can't even get live. And it's a challenge for weeks to fix. Right now, I'd say the biggest complaint I've heard in 2024 is about profits. Amazon's charging more fees. They're even charging a fee for low inventory. So if you have low inventory at FBA, they're now hitting you with a fee, which is ridiculous, right?
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
totally ridiculous. I'm surprised we haven't seen a bigger revolt than we have seen, and it's been the biggest revolt I've ever seen. Margins have been challenging. PPC costs are up. The complexity to sell on the platform is higher. The Chinese are using all kinds of black hat tactics and hacking and putting poor reviews, and all kinds of challenges are happening to Amazon sellers. And so I'm on a mission to be the world's most seller-centric company because Amazon's the most buyer-centric company, but they don't give a shit about sellers. Like they
Hmm.
just really don't care about sellers. And there's nothing in the system to help a seller be successful on Amazon. Some people are like, well, then why would I want to sell on Amazon? Because Amazon's half the economy. You're like 800-pound gorilla. You could try and become a honey badger and scrape some, you know, some stakes here and there and win a few battles. But at the end of the day, you got to sell on Amazon. Otherwise, you're irrelevant. A lot of people don't realize how hard it is to sell on Amazon. But once you talk to an Amazon seller and you learn the truth,
Mm.
you're like, how in the world do you even want to do that?
Oh,
So
really?
yeah, it's very difficult.
What would be the point of that? It's like don't sell too much. It's like you can't get too low in inventory. We want you to sell on here, but don't sell too much. Make sure you keep
Well,
an inventory.
they do want you to sell too much. Rule number one, commandment number one, thou shalt not go out of stock on Amazon. Right.
Gotcha.
And commandment two is like commandment one. No, seriously, never go out of stock.
Yeah.
Because if you do, Amazon will hit you with fees. If you do, your listing goes weak. You have to rebuy in your SEO rankings. You have to pay PPC to get back up to the top. It's challenging if you go out of stock, right? And maybe you got a subscribe and save product and you lose all your subscribers because you went out of stock for too long. So it's a lot harder today. You can't just like ship from China directly into FBA or an Amazon warehouse. You got to have your own like holding facilities and
Hmm.
bootstrapping this out of your basement or your garage. That's a thing of 2018, 2019.
Okay.
Today in 2024, it's a real business. You have to operate like a real business.
So it's not just a fee, but it's also penalties. They also penalize you in multiple ways when you run out of stock.
There's like de facto penalties if the algorithm knows you're going to run out of stock, they're going to slow down your traffic. And then once you're out of stock, they de-index you and your competitors start to win the placements that you have. And then on top of that, yes, they charge you a fee.
With the 500 employees, over 500, how do you provide the proper training to ensure your team stays knowledgeable and effective in managing these Amazon accounts, especially in such a competitive market, all these different things that are changing?
3 letters, SOP, standard operating procedure. And I'm not just preaching this, I live it, right? Like we have over 1,000 SOPs. We update them every single day. Every member of the organization, the moment they recognize something needs to be updated, they have to do it. It's part of our core culture. It's part of our values. Teaching and learning. And because we're an education company, every single person is a teacher and a learner. And so we've built this never-ending replacement system. We're one of the few agencies that hires interns. So if somebody's listening to this, they're looking for a career, you could get an internship at my Amazon guy, and it will make you extraordinarily valuable. We don't care if you have a college degree. We just care if you're tech savvy and you can solve problems. So we find people like that. We built an organization that structures and collects people. And many of the people that work at my Amazon guy go on to do even cooler and bigger things. They become the business leaders of America. Amazon is just the greatest wealth transfer in my lifetime. And it's made me a wealthy man. I've bought the dream house. I've got the dream car. I've got the beautiful family, and I've hit the I win button in life. And so from here on out, I'm already into legacy building mode, and I'm 37 years old. And so I'm trying to create as many jobs as I possibly can and teach them everything I know to leave a legacy that might last hundreds of years. Every concept ever has to be repeated every 90 days. And that can be frustrating to an entrepreneur. You're like, I've already taught this 2 years ago or whatever. Why do I have to bring this back up? Well, you do. You really do. If anybody's read the book, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, literally every 90 days, reinforce the vision. Take Chick-fil-A, for example. The CEO of Chick-fil-A probably went on some tour to a Spanish country, I don't know, Dominican Republic or otherwise, heard the term my pleasure, goes back and tries to convince his staff to say my pleasure. Took him 10 years to get every location to say my pleasure. And that's a small thing. That's such a small thing. It took him 10 years, right? He had to repeat himself over and over and over again. That's what it takes to run an organization at scale. That's what it takes to teach and repeat and be the repeater in chief.
The SOPs that you're doing and the people that you have or in your industry, how are they fixing those SOPs and updating those? Do you have everyone that are looking towards that? Everyone who works for you, are they looking towards different things that are coming up that are changing? Or do you have a team of people in place that are constantly changing those for the team?
There's obviously certain accountable parties, right? The difference between accountability and responsibility. The responsible person has to participate. The accountable party has to make sure it gets done. There is a responsibility that everybody in the organization, if you find something that's out of date, you find an improvement, to make that suggestion, add a comment, switch the SOP up. And then I put accountability people in charge of making sure and auditing and going through and quizzing people, right? So like I created an entire school, mag-school.com. I sell courses for like $100, right? So it's not a money maker for me. I certify people. I make my own people certify as well. And those people, they have to have a certain number of certificates to even promote up in my company. It's like getting your own Amazon degree of sorts, whether it's PPC, SEO, design, catalog. We also just released a brand manager playbook with over 100 different ways to grow sales on Amazon. We then quiz people. They then get a score. They then get a certificate. We then figure out where we're scoring the weakest. We then teach more on that. And it's very much like running an entire college or an education facility. I've been really surprised to see the education process, the college circuit, go off onto the left path and business go off on the right. And there really isn't anybody that like brings them together. The separation between learning and business, like separation. I may very well be one of the leading businesses and educators simultaneously, and like pulling that together makes a very unique culture. Like the number one reason somebody joins my company is to learn. That's counterintuitive, right? A lot of people are like, oh, once you learn, then you go do whatever you want. But the learning is so intoxicating. The learning is like, it's like dog years at my Amazon guy. Like 1 year at Mag is 7 years somewhere else. And so early in your career, that's a magnifying ability to learn and to have that kind of, interest and power and control and learning opportunity. That's what I'm trying to do. And that's how I've set my culture apart and how we've succeeded here. It means that I can hire hundreds of interns, right? So like there was a big, hairy, audacious goal, like the third year in my company's history. I was outselling my ability ability to hire for operations.
Yeah.
Great problem to have, right? Every entrepreneur wants this problem.
Yes.
But like, how do you solve it? Do I go poach from other agencies? I didn't like the employees of those other agencies. Seriously. Like, I really didn't. I had all the personality profiles and I'm like, oh man, these guys are filled with emotional extroverts. I'm a logical introvert. I'm Spock. I don't want to hire Captain Kirk's. Leave me alone. Right. And so I was like, how do I solve this? And I figured it out. I go to a new pool of people that nobody's touching and I help them and create careers. And we hired 100 interns in 30 days early on in my business's venture. That was a huge change in environment for us. And what we've been able to do after we hired those 100 interns completely changed our business model. We have more people than we need. We overhire. We have a higher profit margin as well. So I run a $20 million ARR agency with a 43% net profit. I don't say that to brag, but I say that to indicate that I freaking have a successful model. A lot of businesses have no idea how to hire an intern. They have no idea how to be an education model. They have no idea how to create their own talent pool. And so they are stuck trying to utilize the current talent pool and their net margins are closer to 10 or 15%. So a business that is trying to increase their margins, they only have a couple of choices in life. They can increase their prices that they charge clients. They can go upstream, or they can create a new talent pool and work from the ground up. And that's been my key to success and the culture that we've been able to achieve because of it.
People coming out of college and they're looking towards something like this. Have you had success with interns who have marketing degrees or even something that's just not even close to what you guys are doing? Are you hiring interns any kind of, or do they have to have a specific degree to kind of interview and be part of this?
I can tell you that marketing degrees underperform. I'm a marketer saying that, by the way. I think that the more technical degrees, the STEM degrees, the math, the engineering, and most specifically, computer science, people that can navigate the digital realm, the people who play video games, are creating economies at scale, those people do really good in digital business environments. Now, they don't know that yet, typically. Yeah. Right. Like I'll be playing Overwatch on the weekend. I'll be trying to like recruit like the really cool healer, like Mercy, the healer, like is healing. I'm Reinhardt, the tank. And you know, oh, man, you're really easy to work with. You'd be a great employee. And they'd be like, leave me alone. Like, I don't want a job. I'm in my parents' basement, whatever. They are amazing in my environment. There are certain demographics that we really perform well with, right? Like the super tech savvy Asians that have been pushed by their parents to do well in school kill it at my company. We chase a lot of that. I have 400 employees in the Philippines, and we're a worldwide, international organization. We can hire anywhere. I'll hire any competent person anywhere in the world because I run a meritocracy.
So anyone that's listening, make sure you guys take advantage of this, and reach out. How would they go about reaching out and trying to apply for those intern opportunities?
So myamazonguy.com/internship. And we have all kinds of job opportunities, but that's the structural place to start for an internship. We do give everybody a culture index survey. It takes 5 minutes to complete. It'll knock out 63% of the population. And so I mentioned that if you get past that, know that we're very interested.
Right.
Like if you get to an interview stage, you have a high chance of success.
My Amazon Guy has grown to 20 million in annual revenue with over 400 active brands. So I know we talked a little bit about this, but what strategies and practice have been crucial to achieving, your remarkable growth?
Well, because I create a bunch of content, the first 10 million ARR that I grew up until 2022 was completely inbound. People would watch my videos on YouTube. They'd watch 20 videos that show up on a sales call and say, hey, you really helped me out in my business. Take my money. And they would work with us. I started an outbound process in January 2.5 years ago, and that has been the key to our outbound process. So I like to say that I got to $1 million just by asking people I knew, got to $10 million by building out content, LinkedIn and YouTube primarily. And then I got to 20 million by having an outbound sales process. And I'm going to get to 50 by doing PPC specifically for the agency. And that's the order I would recommend any entrepreneur ever generate leads and go through that process. But the cold outbound process was able to double us again. That's been a very good thing. We got a 30-person sales team. What's made us successful is a content engine that is education based. And so because of that, we apply those same principles to the Amazon brands that we work with. One of the fastest way to grow sale on Amazon is to improve the main image and to increase CTR, click-through rate. If you look at it, Amazon's already got conversion rate to 10% on average on its standard Amazon listing. And so it would take you significant resources to bring that to 12%, let alone double your conversion rate. But a CTR or a traffic question, you could put in 2 hours, fix your main image, and triple your traffic with that one change. Right. And so we start adding value with the main image. Sometimes we'll give out a free main image to a prospect just to show them. We'd be like, look, forget our sales pitch. Just put this main image up. And if that improves your sales, come back and talk to us. And every single time it works, and we end up generating business. And so leading with value, leading with education, and then helping businesses and brands grow their sales before they even engage, a la try before you buy it, whether they watch our content, whether they create the video, it doesn't matter. It helps in any shape or form. And so that's been our key to success, is just by leading with value, creating educational content, and then helping brands do the same thing for their consumers.
So do you help with them creating content as well? So I know you talked about changing the image, but are you guys only helping them create content on YouTube, or is it across all different kind of social media platforms?
So it's everything within Amazon, right? So you can create graphics, infographics, you can show the customer avatar. A lot of times we'll look at a listing and it's an animal treat, and they sell it to both dogs and cats. And we'll say, hey, you know what? That's a mixed message customer avatar. Nobody that's a cat owner wants to buy a dog treat. Nobody that's a dog owner wants to feed their dog a cat treat. And so here's what we suggest we do. We're going to separate your listing and create 2 listings. And now you've doubled your sales potential. You have 2 different customer avatars. You sell the packaging separately. You Photoshop cats on the cat page and dogs on the dog page. And then all of a sudden, it makes it a higher conversion rate. Your click-through rate goes up because now cat people are clicking on the cat product, dog people are clicking on the dog product, and the rest writes itself. A lot of times we'll get into a product and they'll be selling like a toothbrush, and I'll ask them, who's your ideal customer profile? And they'll say, anybody with teeth. And I'm like, no, that's not true, right? Like, if we really sit down and think about it, is this a unicorn toothbrush? Because if it's a unicorn toothbrush, my daughter, who's 5 years old, is obsessed with unicorns. I read How to Catch a Unicorn every night to her. She would make it so much easier to put her to bed if she had a unicorn toothbrush, instead of me having to fight and say, honey, we got to get you're the bad guys out of your mouth. You got to brush your teeth. Think about the difference between selling that product to those 2 different customer sets. A toothbrush for anybody with teeth, that's bland. Anybody could buy it. Nobody will. A unicorn toothbrush that it's marketed to 5-year-old girls, instead of us selling a toothbrush, we're now selling a bedtime routine solution. That's going to create a customer avatar that people want. So our job as marketers is to make the tent as narrow as possible. Politicians all day long, throw everybody into my vote tent. I want your votes and I want your votes. But as marketers, our job is to do the opposite. We narrow the tent selection so much. When you show up to the listing, you're like, that's my people. This is for me. I want to buy this, right? Just to throw a really strange example to make it memorable, if I was going to sell a Russian mail order bride, the ICP on that would be a 3-time divorced truck driver. You can see it. You can, without even thinking about this further, you're like, yep, that makes sense. And because they've already been married, they are on the road, they don't have social skills, they probably have some cash. There you go. Right now, how many brand owners have their ICP down to 3-time divorced truck driver?
Right.
Almost none of them do.
No.
Almost none of them. And so as a marketer, we come in and we help people figure out their customer avatar. And sometimes I have to go through some routines like this and challenge things. We try and get data if we can. Amazon does give some demographic data, but demographics is just the scratch of the surface. To get down to 3-time divorced truck driver, it takes a lot of work.
If you're selling multiple products, you have multiple pages for that seller, right? So if someone clicks on that seller's name, if it's that product that they're looking at, will it bring up multiple, like, will it show they have another page, or is it completely separate? It will show it.
We sell trademarks as well. I filed over 2,000 trademarks, and that's one of the first things a new seller needs to do, by the way. So if anybody's thinking about selling on Amazon, trademark is very early on in your process. But I bring this up because you can file your trademark with Amazon, what's called brand registry. Brand registry will get you a brand store. You can then market like a website and have all of your products marketed in one single location. You can also connect your products on Amazon in other more technical ways. There's a thing called parentage. You have A+ content where you got a product grid. You can increase your AOV that way. There's another thing called a brand story. All these different ways you can market products on Amazon by connecting them through designs and merchandising opportunities. But suffice it to say, a single product can be marketed a lot of different ways on Amazon.
So aside from your own product that you're selling, aside from that, what are the startup costs to be a seller on Amazon? So the trademarking and anything in addition to that, what would you say is a ballpark startup cost?
If I was somebody who wanted to take this seriously, I would invest a minimum of $10,000. And by the way, if we compare that to like buying a Chick-fil-A franchise, it's a significantly easier thing to do. Let's be clear about that first. It's cheaper than a college degree for some perspective. Could you get away with doing a $3,000 deal? Yeah, you could, but it would be very hard. But for 10 grand, that'll get you your COGS. That's your cost of goods, your actual sourced item, shipping it logistically across the world, because almost everything's manufactured in China. Unless you do a consumable or a topical product, then you might source it locally in the States. And then from there, a trademark, $825. I think that's what we charge for it. And then you need to have some money to market the product once you launch it, right? So you may hire an expert to help you out. You might do it yourself. You might watch Stephen Pope's videos on YouTube and try and follow along and do it for free. Doesn't matter how you choose to do it. You're going to pay for it one way or another. You'll pay Amazon taxes in the form of making mistakes if you go it alone, or you'll pay agencies fees if you hire them. No matter how you do it though, 10 grand, that's a minimum starting point that I think somebody needs to do to be successful, to buy everything, market it, get it up and running. And there are many brands that will spend hundreds of thousands of dollars launching products, and you're competing against that. So you got to decide like how much niche down you're going to go in your product. And there's a lot of different ways you could choose a product. Stick to what you understand. If you try and use data to follow a trend, you're going to end up buying fidget spinners, and so is every other person ever. And then you're all going to be selling fidget spinners on the same, same platform and wondering why nothing is selling. I was a chess player growing up. In high school, I played in the US Chess Open. I played in all kinds of national tournaments. And if I was to sell a chess product today, I would have a huge edge over the next guy who has no idea about anything about chess, but Queen's Gambit, they watched it on Netflix one weekend. They're like, I'm going to sell chess sets.
Right.
Chess sets are in right now. And then they go to market and they lose to me because I understand the thickness of a vinyl board needs to be a certain cut, because I understand triple weighted chess pieces are way cooler than your single weighted pieces, because I understand a lot more about the game. I freaking breathed it. I used it. I taught in 100 chess clubs in Utah, growing up and going into college. And so that's what I could sell and stick to what I understand. But if you're a chemist selling a supplement because you understand the chemistry behind it, that's helpful. Or maybe you're an MMA fighter and you do jujitsu and you're like, this supplement's the best thing to help your knees and help you do more shrimps on the weekend, right? Those are the things that you could stick to what you understand, and it won't matter what the data is because you have a customer avatar pre-baked as an entrepreneur. And this is good business advice that's not specific to Amazon. You could really cross-apply it to any business ever. If you want to be a business leader, the longer you do something, the better your moat is. The more you understand it, the better you can speak to it. Now, there's data paralysis. There's, needing to evolve and try new things and switch careers sometimes. And maybe you're in a dying sector. I used to be a TV reporter. I loved being a TV reporter. I hated working for the dinosaur news industry. It was collapsing in 2008 when I became a TV reporter. Absolutely terrible time to become a TV reporter. I only lasted 2.5 years because of how awful it was to be a TV reporter during that time.
Wow.
I got out of it. I was like, you know what? 10 o'clock at night in Wisconsin, the biggest blizzard the state had seen in a decade. You know what? I'd rather be in my pajamas than missing my cue. I couldn't even see the cameraman. I had hair back then. My hair froze over. It was a miserable experience.
Yeah.
So, every entrepreneur ever has one of those coming of age moments where they're like, this is so stupid. I'm going to fix the problem. And then they go out and fix it, and they make the world a better place. And I'm very much programmed to do that. I want to make the world a way better place. And so that's what drives me. That's what keeps me going. And I hope I'm going to create multi-generational wealth for my family. I'm going to help the world be a better place. I'm going to create thousands of jobs. I'm going to help thousands of brands to do their own thing and create their own jobs. It's an amplifying effect. And I very much appreciate the ride.
How do you manage and balance your time and focus across, your family, 5 kids? I mean, and then you have my Amazon guy, my refund guy, my warehouse guy. We didn't really talk about any of these. And then your other Amazon brands. How do you manage it all, man? That is a lot.
I don't balance it, right? So when I read a lot of business books, I go out into the forest and wander for hours at a time, just trying to get in touch with myself. I recently read the book Be Obsessed. That book basically says, don't worry about balance. And it's funny because I also believe in prosperity in all things.
Yeah.
And so I work from home. My kids may come in on a podcast on occasion. I just plop them right on my knee and keep going.
Yeah.
Right. And I get some daddy time while teaching the market. And the people who are watching it appreciate that. They're like entertained by that. Like, how do you focus with a 3-year-old on your lap? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm just used to it. But there are certain times where you have to focus on each of these other buckets. And, I go swim with the kids. I take them on hikes. I have a dog. I walk at certain times of day every day. And if I don't, he's going to come make me. Right. And so I try and create the discipline. I started jujitsu to help me with my physical, capacity. I'm 13 sessions into that so far, and it's exhilarating.
Yes.
And so just keeping all those things balanced, I'd say, a lot of people try and do that. But if we're being honest with ourselves, there is no such thing as balance. It is just, you go hard in all things and you rotate where you need to rotate when you need to rotate. It's okay to do that.
Yeah, I think it takes the stressful aspect of it as well, right? If we're always constantly worrying about where you're not spending enough time in, and then you just end up failing in multiple areas. So I like that.
Yeah, 2 months ago, I took my family to the Philippines for 30 days. It was the best thing ever. I got the kids away from YouTube. I was able to teach them and be a father in ways that never would have had access to. They got to see arguably a third world country that is beautiful and has exotic fruits, and completely changed the perspective. Over there, most toilets don't have toilet seats. They're like, what the heck? And I'm like, yeah, a lot of people live like this. Eye-opening experiences for my children. I find ways to have power sessions and focus time with the family. And then I bring in resources and teachers. I'm teaching my kids how to type on computers. I teach them how to play piano. I teach them how to read. And I read books almost every night to my kids.
Yeah.
So it can be done.
Right.
It very much can be done. Is it easy? Absolutely not. Is it balanced? I don't think so.
So strategizing to an extent, right? I mean, to know that you need to make sure you're paying attention in those different areas. But like you said, it's not exactly a balance. It's more so just thinking about it and putting it all together and spending time with your family and not letting work overtake your life like many have done, right?
If I do that and I become an Elon Musk light follower, right? The dude's had 3 marriages, kids with 3 women. His life and family is a total wreck. He's been disowned by, I think, his daughter or son or something.
Yeah.
And so, if I create multi-generational wealth and then one of my kids ODs on drugs, what would be the freaking point of everything?
Exactly.
Like, it would totally defeat the purpose. I try and make sure that I'm prosperous in all ways, but it's definitely not balanced.
I want to touch a little bit on your book. So your book, Amazon Selling Tips, is a bestseller. So what key insights or tips from your book do you believe are most valuable for Amazon sellers today, and then kind of give them a preview of what they could get if they pick up your book?
We have created 2 additions to this. There's even an Audible. The key here is that the basics scale, right? And so I tried to make sure that anything I put in this book would work 5 years from now. Like you hear about Amazon hacks or hacks and selling tips and like all these things that are like cutting edge, but they work for 3 months and stop after 6 or whatever. So everything that I teach in my book is super basic. And a lot of like high experts pick up the book and they're like, Steven, this is all basics. Like, what the heck? And I'm like, exactly. It's exactly what you should be doing. Why? Because PPC, SEO, design, and catalog work are the 4 tenets of Amazon. Anything that generates traffic, anything that improves conversion rates. So what I teach in the book is extraordinarily easy to follow. It's sound biteable. It's transferable. It's basically a franchise model on how to sell on Amazon.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because you start getting too technical, all those things change within the next couple months anyways, right? So
they do.
So that makes total sense. So how can listeners engage with you, learn more about My Amazon Guy, and then also be able to pick up that book, My Amazon Selling Tips?
So everything you can find about me is at myamazonguy.com. You can find the book on Amazon, obviously. Just type in Amazon Selling Tips. You'll find the book by Stephen Pope. You can drop me an email if you like the podcast today. Just, put something into the email of like, hey, there's one thing you said really resonated. You can send me an email at podcast@myamazonguy.com. We always appreciate hearing from our viewers. The last thing I'll mention is the best business advice I can ever give is to ask customers what they want, give it to them, and then ask, did you get what you wanted? And I find that if you just do that and ignore the competitions, you got a blue ocean strategy that will infinitely scale.